Good morning, welcome back to the adventures of Macadamia. Today's video, we've got something a little bit different. Not normally the sort of thing I do. The channel's basically an off-grid living and off-grid timeout channel. But every once in a while I research a project that I'm trying to do, and I don't have a lot of joy finding content to help me along. So when I do struggle to find content, either there's very little of it or it's completely non-existent, and I actually have to work things out for myself, I then decide to make a video about that. So we're going to do this video today down at the farm. I know normally if I do a motorhome video regarding modifications, I do at home at the farmhouse, but we've come down the farm today because Anthea's doing a few jobs down at the bottom, and there's a lot more room here, and I've also got an example here of a similar camera which we use at the farm for farm security. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do this video actually down here at the farm. So today we were going to be fitting a tilt and turn security camera. Whilst we were away, we went to northern Spain for nearly a month. We identified a few things that the motorhome was lacking and what we really needed, and things that would make our experience better or would make things better, in this case security-wise. Now, I did quite a bit of research. I looked at the blink cameras as an option. I dismissed them, I'll come back to that in a minute. And I finally settled on using a tilt and turn camera. Now, the reason for this I really wanted to get as much view of the motorhome around the motorhome as I could. And I thought with a fixed camera like Blink or similar, the only way I was going to do that was probably put up to 4 cameras on there, which by the time you've got the special brackets, which I noted you need on some of these motorhomes that to fit these cameras, turns out being pretty expensive and still isn't particularly flexible. Certainly not as flexible as having a tilt and turn camera. Another thing as well is I wanted to use some additional features that you probably wouldn't automatically think about when you fit a security camera. And that is because we had quite a few problems with, shall we just say, thoughtless people while we were away. We wanted to use the security camera in a kind of a proactive deterrent to try and deter people from doing thoughtless things around the motorhome while we're trying to chill out or basically sleep inside. I shall come back onto that later as well. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you this. This is the camera we've actually got down at the farm, and this works pretty well. I'm quite impressed with the pan and tilt camera here. It works pretty well overall, and I've also fitted several cameras like this or similar to customers' houses. Now, of course, we say, we're going to fit a tilt and pan camera. We'll fit that to the motorhome, but of course, as usual, it's not that simple. There are various variants on this type of camera which we need to look into and decide which one we want. Okay, so what you need to take into consideration on your tilt and turn camera. First option, I suppose, is what you're going to do. Are you going to have it Wi-Fi, as in connected to a 2.4 gigahertz transmission from a router, or are you going to be independent and have it running off a 4G SIM? Basically, I recommend that if you've just got one camera, you're probably just as well using a SIM card on its own. It saves you having any more sort of setup. But if you're having more than one camera, which I'm going to have on the motorhome, I plan to have 2 eventually, I think I'm going to connect it into a Wi-Fi. I'm going to buy the Wi-Fi cameras. The Wi-Fi cameras tend to be a bit cheaper, so that's another bonus as well. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the Wi-Fi camera and what options you've got as a motorhome. I intend later to actually fit an independent Wi-Fi network to the motorhome with an external aerial. Up until now, we haven't really had any problems. Either me or Anthea, we're both on different networks, have had reception, and it's normally been strong enough, no matter where we are, to actually hotspot, things like Netflix and YouTube on the telly and everything, actually off our phones. However, when it comes to things like uploading videos, not so much, which when we're away for a month at the time, we really need the external Wi-Fi and a separate Wi-Fi system in the motorhome. Now, don't let that deter you. If you want to use a hotspot, you can do. But there's a few things also to bear in mind. It will connect to a hotspot, but you cannot use the same phone as you've downloaded the app on to power your actual camera. You need to connect to a Wi-Fi, a hotspot. So I connected to Anthea's hotspot on her phone, and then connect the camera to that also. And that's impossible to do if you first put your phone onto hotspot yourself. So you've got the option of, say, for instance, when you go out, one of you, your partner, could leave their mobile phone in the motorhome while you go out as a hotspot, and you could use your phone to keep an eye on your phone while you're out. I understand that's probably not an option for anybody sort of Gen Z and lower. You probably have to have the phone surgically removed first to actually leave it in the motorhome. But for us older fogies, you know, we could quite happy to leave one phone in the motorhome whilst we go out and do our little adventures. Another option, of course, many of us have got old phones lying around at home. They're probably not much good anymore. The batteries are probably flat, but you could quite easily put the hotspot on that and leave it plugged in your motorhome when you go out and actually use that your hotspot to power your camera. So there's quite a few little options there you can mull over. So up until this point of the thought process, I've mulled over what type of camera I want and settled on the tilt and turn. I've mulled over what sort I'm going to have, whether I'm going to have 4G or whether I'm going to have Wi-Fi, and decided on the Wi-Fi. So now the next thing we've really got to think about, I suppose, is where we're going to locate the cameras. I'm planning on having two on here. I've only ordered one up to now because I want to test it, see how good it is first. But I'm aiming to sort of get the maximum view I can around the motorhome. Now, I'm thinking probably, I'll try and point up here, the best spot for one of them is going to be right here, probably up on the corner of here. It's out of reach. I'll just try and reach. I'm 6 foot tall, you see, and I'm still about a foot off there. It's out of reach up there for people, so they can't just sort of grab it and pull it off if they want to. The only concern I've got is maybe this here may be in the way. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to actually connect up the camera, get up the ladder, offer it up and see what the view is like before we start doing the dreaded drilling of the holes in the motorhome. Failing that, we'll probably end up putting it probably just about here, which means I can actually reach that, but it does mean probably that we can pan around and get a view around the corner of the back here. I'll just quickly take you around the other side of the motorhome because the second camera I'm planning on putting around here. And I'm thinking probably just about on this point here where there's a curve, and hopefully I might get some view maybe of the front of the motorhome here, and obviously most of the way around the back here. I'm not putting the camera on this side, obviously, up on this point here because we've got the ladder. So obviously people just climb that ladder and pull it off. I think at the end of the day, if people want it off, they're going to just smash it off with something anyway. If people are determined to break into your caravan, they're going to be able to do that as well. There's only so much you can do. But a lot of the time, just visually seeing the camera is enough to put people off. So as I said, I have fitted a few of these cameras in the past. I've fitted one actually down here on the farm, and also for customers as well in the past. And there's one thing I've noticed which sort of got me thinking is some of these cameras, you actually screw the bracket to the position where you want to fit the camera first, and then you sort of push the camera on and snap it into place. That got me thinking, because I don't want the cameras on the outside of the caravan all the time, or on the motorhome all the time when I'm driving around or when I've got it parked up. You know, I may want to bring them back in to recharge them. And of course, I probably might not want them up there when I'm driving. So I thought if I can somehow get that so that I can make it detachable, I thought that's going to be one hell of a bonus. And therefore, I ended up going with a camera called an ANRAN, which I've fitted in the past, and I do know they've got separate brackets. So what I'll do, I think we'll jump back in the motorhome where we've got a bit less sunshine and everything, and I'll take you through the camera that I've chosen. Okay, I hope the light's good enough inside here in the motorhome, but it gets us out the sun, which is really difficult to film in because the sun shines on the screen of the camera. But anyway, this is the camera I've gone for, the ANRAN Security Camera. One thing I forgot to mention earlier was you need to make sure that it is actually a model with batteries in it, and not all of them do, because it's bad enough we've got to screw holes in for the bracket, but if you've got to start running power cables up to this camera, you know, you've got more holes and basically more of a pain in the arse to fit it. If you get one with a solar panel, which isn't normally a great deal more expensive, which this one has, then you've definitely got a battery in that camera for sure, because obviously the solar panel's got to charge the battery. So let's open this up and have a quick look what we've got. Right, so we'll open this up. I've already had this out and checked it up and set it up. The setting up's really simple. I won't go through that and bore you with that. It's going to be a tedious enough video as it is. But we'll get it out. This is your camera, two aerials, little solar panel. I've gone for the fixed solar panel, which is actually attached to it, just to make it a bit more of a compact unit for when I pull it on and off. Obviously, we're not always going to be getting optimum somewhere in parks, especially as I tend to try and put the bedroom and the fridge side of the motorhome away from the sun, sort of northwest. So it's not going to be the optimum position. In the past, when I fit these for customers, I normally buy the version of this, but actually with the separate solar panel. But anyway, moving on. I've got the bracket here. See the bracket here, and as you can see, you mount that on the wall as usual, and then you push the camera on, and it snaps into place. Now, it's not really designed to come on and off all the time like we're going to be using it for, and therefore it's usually a lot stiffer than that. But what I've done is, because they've got these little lugs here that clip on, where they go into the slots here, I hope this is going to focus, I've actually taken a bit of the plastic away with the tip of a Stanley knife. Now, gently do it. What I advise you doing, take a tiny little bit off, try it back on there again. If it isn't slipping on easy like that, then take a bit more off. Obviously, you can take more off, you can't put it back on, so just take your time with this part of the process there. What we're looking to do is get it so that when you push it on, it stays on, but it doesn't easily come off. But you don't want it so hard to get off that in the end you're going to end up ripping the whole bracket off the side of the motorhome. So that's pretty good like that. Now also, with me living in Spain, I'll put an extra feature as well. So yeah, Spain's the sort of place that, if things can go wrong, they will go wrong. And I've had visions of even strong winds or something, somehow this actually coming off the bracket, falling and smashing on the floor. So an extra precaution, if you look closely here, you can see I've actually drilled a hole in here, and then drilled it all the way through into this point here. We can see my thumb is. And when you shut that together, it lines up. And then, for want of a better thing, I've got a split pin, and that pushes all the way through and holds it in place. So that's not coming off at that point. Just as an added security. You may be able to think of something better than the split pin. You may think that by the time you got it on, you don't really need that. But things tend to go wrong pretty quickly. So start to go south pretty damn fast here in Spain. So I've just put that in precaution rather than just having that bouncing off the ground and smashing. Okay, so I've got Anvia's mobile phone here. Under protest, may I add, she wanted to listen to her music. Well, she can't when I've got a phone. So we've got hers set on a hotspot because obviously you can't use the app when you're using a hotspot, as I explained earlier. Okay, I hope you can see all that. We've got Anvia's phone set on the hotspot. We've got the camera here on one side, and then you can actually see on my phone here, it's got the picture of me actually filming. So I think the next thing to do is going off of this outside with my phone. Hopefully I'll be able to see the screen in the sun, and offer it up in the position where I want it and manoeuvre it around to see if it's going to do what I want to do, and whether it's actually the sunscreen, the awning is going to be in the way. So what we'll do is we'll go up the top there and I'll bring you back in. Okay, so we've got ladders set up, bit of foam at the top to protect the motorhome, and so I'll get up there and test that now. Okay, so that didn't go according to plan. As you can probably see from the background, we're back at the farmhouse and no longer down at the farm. And we're about a week later. I tried multiple points to mount the camera, the security camera up on the motorhome. None of them were perfect. One point, the awning blocked the view a little bit, and the other point that I considered a trim blocked the view to the back of the vehicle as well. So, being unwilling to compromise, I decided to make an actual mounting bracket up to push the camera further away from the motorhome and give me a better view. So what we'll do in a minute is we'll nip inside the motorhome and I'll show you what I came up with. Okay, so this is what I've come up with. Under normal circumstances I would avoid this like the plague. I hate doing metal fabrication, although luckily I can actually do it to a fairly decent standard. But I'd much rather buy it off the shelf somewhere like in a factory for a tenner, because I normally find that fabricating things yourself works out more expensive than just buying something that's been punched out at a factory, 10,000 a day, over the counter, say from AliExpress. But anyway, they don't do an extension bracket for this camera, so I've had to make one myself. So what we've got two pieces of square tube. They slot into each other, slide in and out. And two pieces of steel 2mm plate, which I've shaped to make a sort of half decent looking bracket. The plastic mounting bracket for the camera is actually bolted to that steel plate, and this piece here will actually go up against the motorhome. Now the reason I've made this in two parts here is because when it's on like that, it sticks out a little bit further than the awning, and I'm thinking it only takes me to get some jobs work for someone who's new to the job at the ITV, which is the annual test here in Spain, and they might say, oh well, that's sticking out a little bit too far. So what I'm going to do is I've put a bolt that goes through there with a wing nut. And when I go to the ITV station, I can take this away completely and just have this piece on the side of the motorhome, which really sticks out very little and certainly doesn't stick out more than the awning. Another bonus with this is I've probably mentioned it several times in the past. Here in Spain, it's very hot and plastic doesn't last long out in the elements. It becomes cooked and very brittle, and it only takes the slightest bit of shock and it shatters. So, which is why there are a lot of plastic pipes aren't actually used on the outside of houses here in Spain. So I've got the option then, when if it's periods of time we're not using the motorhome, I could just take this piece away, put a little plastic cap in the end of it to stop the weather or wasps making nests in there, and leave this piece off and out of the sun. So after half a day of sort of cutting, sanding, grinding, welding, and painting, we've finally got a half decent bracket. Incidentally, I painted this in, I put primer on it first, high oxidant, antioxidant primer on it first of all, and then I've used what they call a domestics paint, or how do you refer to what you use for domestic appliances basically. It's a white enamel. I've had quite good results with this, and it gives you almost a powder coated looking surface, which I think looks quite nice. It also stands up really well to the heat and the sun. So yeah, I've gone with that. So what I'm going to do, I think, I'm going to get this together. I'm going to go and put it up on the side of the van. I won't film that because it's you see me climbing up the ladder outside of the camper van before. Get this up into place and see what it looks like. Okay, and there we have it, the finished job. I'll fix it on with 3 screws. I wouldn't normally like screwing things and making holes in the motorhome, but I've tried self-adhesive pads in the past, and here in Spain it gets so hot, the pads just get softer and softer, and eventually the weight of the item that it's hanging off pulls it down. So got no real choice but to use screws. This is fiberglass rather than aluminium, so at the end of the day, if I did need to block the holes, I can more or less block them and finish it off without really leaving the trace. So now with that done, I've got full view from the camera all the way to the front of the vehicle. I can see anything that's going on there, and more importantly, I've got full view on the back where I've usually got the bikes on. So I've got full view from inside the motorhome with what's going on outside basically. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I discussed earlier in the video about discouraging inconsiderate behaviour around your motorhome. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so this camera's got some extra features that a lot of the cameras don't have. I talked about other cameras earlier on in the video, and most of them, as far as I'm aware, don't really have the features which I'm going to mention now. Firstly, you can set up the normal feature of a light coming on, an alarm going off when this is disturbed or anybody activates the camera on the sensor. Not really something you'd want to use too much where there's a lot of motorhomes parked. You could quite easily go from being the victim of the inconsiderate behaviour to the perpetrator of the inconsiderate behaviour. So not something you'd want to put on if you were parked up among a lot of other motorhomes, but certainly something you could put on if you were parked in the middle of nowhere and there was no one else about. So you could use that in that instance. Another good feature I'd like to mention about this camera is you can actually manually talk through the microphone to anybody outside, and you can manually do an alarm, and you can manually put the light on. So, for instance, there was situations where people had parked their cars to go to a bar near our motorhome, and then they came back and they started chatting away outside about 12:30 at night outside the motorhome. Don't think they're particularly bad people. I just think they just were being thoughtless, you know. And I think maybe if I just flick the light onto them, they might have registered, there's a motorhome here. Maybe someone's sleeping in there. Maybe we should leave. This is mainly Spanish people. They're not like us where we sort of do an activity and then leave straight away. They've sort of got a transitional period between the activity and when they leave of normally about half an hour, where they gradually edge off to go home. So they could quite easily be natting around and standing around outside your motorhome very early in the morning or very early at night, without thinking and disturbing you when you're chilling out trying to watch TV or even trying to have a sleep. So you've got the option of giving a quick flash of the light. Hello, we're here, there's someone here, and they might just stop to think for a second, yeah, we're disturbing people. If that doesn't work, you've got the option of the alarm. You give a blast of the alarm and just put that on. Second thing, right, that's your second warning, please bugger off. You know, and leave that flashing, and I hope they'll get the message. Now, obviously, it's not always going to work in all circumstances. If you've got a couple of drunks out there or kids messing about, you know, they're going to probably think that's going to be great fun, you know, bothering you and getting you switching the alarm on and off. Another instance you could use it for, which we often have, you know, if you've got kids messing about, you know, you're on say, for instance, a situation we had a huge car park on the edge of a recreation picnic area. But where were the kids playing? Right next to our motorhome. We're trying to watch telly and they're screaming and shouting, going around on scooters. Yeah, let's let our kids run around the motorhome around all these expensive vehicles and not in the picnic area or the recreation area right next door. But again, if I give them a quick blast with the alarm, it might have just jogged the thoughts of the parents and stopped them running feral around the place and maybe said, okay, yeah, go park on the go play on the recreation area. There are sort of instances where you just give people a little blast with the alarm, maybe a little flash with a light. We're here, you know, please be quiet, you're disturbing us. But we shall see how well that works, and certainly in the future I shall probably be video and some reactions to people if I get a grip fast of the alarm. I had one particular woman who I asked last time. I says, "Excuse me, are these children with you?" Which sort of went right over her head. She says, "Well, yes, they are." I said, "Well, please, can you control them?" Did not go down well. Anyway, I think we'll leave that video there. I'm going to stick you a bit of B-roll on of the views I'm getting from the motorhome camera, so you can see, what sort of views I'm getting from that. I'll probably try and zoom it in a bit as well. And I think we'll call it a day with this video. I've made it as interesting as I can. Obviously, it's not the most breathtaking content in the world, security cameras on motorhomes, but nevertheless, hopefully it will be some use to somebody, or at least, give them some ideas to play around with. So I think we'll end that video there. Thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.